I've basically curated this show quite in an unthemed way, and it's all been put together quite intuitively. The reason I want to do this is partly personal, in that I've curated a lot of very heavily themed shows in the last while, and I feel like it's time to allow the artwork to speak for itself a little bit more. But also because I wanted to respond less to what the work's like supposed meaning or content was, and much more to do with how it made me feel. And I just feel like works which actually are either about the triggering of reactions or which actually trigger a reaction in the viewer would be a really beautiful experience. So PhotoCairo has gone back a long way. It's a large-scale project which I think did begin as a photo-centered project, but fairly quickly over different editions began to sort of expand its remit to visual culture, visual arts, lens-based media, and even other media. The Dancing Plague by Andre Romao is a piece about, there's a voiceover that tells you the story, that's in Arabic and English, tells you the story of this woman called Frau Trophea in 1518 in Strasbourg. So a very far away kind of story. And it's a true story about how she got up one day and started dancing in the public square and couldn't stop. And she didn't stop for a month. And then people got so, first of all they watched her, and then they didn't know what to do, and they tried to stop her, and then they joined her, and suddenly about 400 people started dancing and physically couldn't stop. It's a documented event, it's a true history. A lot of them danced themselves to death. In this voiceover, which is told very, very poetically, the artist is giving us this idea that this is maybe a time of such change in Strasbourg in 1518 for some reason, that this woman's body, these people's bodies simply couldn't reconcile themselves with the reality they were in, so just irrationality took over and a certain other kind of public occupation of space took over instead of a rational way of doing it. So it's kind of about what happens to you in a state of powerlessness and what other kind of powers come into play. The voiceover is accompanied, which is really important visually, by these really beautiful black and white slides of the European Parliament, which is in Strasbourg today, and the Strasbourg Cathedral. So two really, really heavy sites of power and negotiation. So he just makes this kind of contrast between these two states. And I think that play between heavy states and sort of very powerful but totally unexplainable forces, and how they kind of coexist and shape our world, that's sort of, it might encapsulate what PhotoCairo is about. The Monument of the Buzzwords is an imagined monument to the revolution as commissioned by the regime. So the idea is kind of impossible because he's using his conceptual ability with all its frankly very progressive and liberal positioning. He's using all of that conceptual space to devise something that is essentially forlorn and how can you map those two mindsets together? You kind of can't. So there's something really unsettling in this mental exercise. And the monument that gets produced is really weird. I mean, it's a series of walls, and we know all about walls. The kind of trick, the idea that I find very strong in this is that the walls are not walls, they're actually raised paths, which makes no difference when you contemplate the city and you realize they're all just walls. But you know, the orientation has gone from that to that, which is suddenly more liberal.